Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. We have a fairly regulated by our boss, Ariana, agenda here today with lots of different times on it. So we will get started. There's no one excused from the meeting, and adoption of the minutes from January 9th. Any concerns? Motion to approve, Brian. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Today's meeting, is there post-agenda items? Kevin.
Madam Reeve, I have a couple in-camera items, please. Legal.
Okay, in-camera, legal items. Any other post-agenda items? We have a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Clarence moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Question period. No notice of motion. So we will carry on through the agenda. Public hearings are at 11:30. That's item 7.1 and through to 7.4. And then there's some bylaws as a result of those, I believe. So we are at 8.3. Or is there something before that? Let's see, bylaw road closure lease. 8.14. I think it's item 8.3 that we can... Cypress County, is that, yep. I think they've been everywhere. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Good morning. This is third reading for Bylaw 1964-19, which is the Cypress Newell Intermunicipal Development Plan. When we had the public hearing, there was a few comments made regarding native grasslands. So we went back to Dillon and Cypress County and we made a few amendments. First, we took out the explanations of each individual county municipal development plan. So this would allow us to change our MDP and then not have to revise the IDP after that. Then there was a comment made about taking irrigation out of production. So we decided to take that out, and in place we just said that we would consider taking irrigated land out of production if the new development supported the local population and economy. So then it would be at council's discretion whether that was a logical choice or not. So what else did we do? For the native grassland policy, we thought that adding public lands to the native grassland policy would work well because it would be in line with the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, which is what we have to follow, those policies. The SSRP has guidelines to conserve and maintain intact grasslands on public lands. So in our IDP, by adding public lands to native grassland, we're in line with the SSRP and we essentially take out the grasslands within the county because they are privately owned lands. So that was another suggestion we had made. And that was about it. Everything kind of remained the same. It was just around the grassland policy. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Any questions for Maria? I think we kicked this around quite a bit last time. Seeing no further questions, could I have a motion for third reading, please? Lionel will move that. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, that takes care of item 8.3, and so we'll drop down to item 11, the Planning and Development Report. Just trying to get done some of the things that will free up some of your time later. So item 11 is the Planning and Development Report, and any questions from that?
Voiceover on. Landscape. Home button to the right.
Okay, what did I do?
Tab. Dim. Button.
Ariana, can you maybe? All right, I'll just move away from the monster here. We need a motion.
FaceTime. Home.
Motion to accept the Planning and Development Report.
Suggestions. Settings. 2 new items.
Kelly?
Double tap to open.
Yeah, we could have figured that out. All right. Kelly's moved a motion to accept the Planning and Development Report. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And then we have the ICF for Cypress County as well.
Thanks, Madam Reeve. I'll take this one. Lane has gone on vacation, so we have the draft ICF with Cypress County. It's very standard to the other ones that we have. Be nice to be dealing with all rural neighbors in these ICFs because it's been an awesome exercise and we're aligned totally. So basically, it's just outlining that we agree on how we're going to communicate and how we'll solve problems if we have them, that we'll be good neighbors, and basically that will assist in large-scale disasters, and if there are service capacity needs, it'll be on a cost basis between either municipality. So it's ready. I think I can add that special areas is in the queue, basically the same agreement. It's going to be ready for the next meeting. And Wheatland will be coming shortly, so we'll be done the rules, hopefully.
Perfect. Thank you. Questions? No questions on that? So it's just an update, basically? Oh, we need a motion for that? Okay. So a motion then to approve. Hubie? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. All right. I think that can take us to our 10:30 delegation, which is Stuart, and he is here. So we'll go to item 11.3. Welcome, Stuart. Ariana, could you have somebody come and, because it's still crazy. It's quiet, but it won't do anything for me. I remember the last time this happened. It sort of locks up and you can't. Yeah. No, I'm good. I'll look over Clarence's shoulder here. All right, we'll go ahead with item 11.3, the 2 light-duty rescue trucks. Information and all the stuff that goes with that. Thanks, Stuart.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, at the beginning of December, we sent out a request for a quote on 2 light-duty rescue trucks. One was for Rosemary Fire, and one was for GEM. And each one of those, one was due to be purchased in 2019, one in 2020. Because of when I came on, we decided that we'd do both together and order them this year. It was a very good process. We got 6 tenders back, all the way from Ontario, Manitoba, and here in Alberta. At the end of the day, we narrowed it down to two groups that were out of Alberta here that were very, very competitive in pricing. And at the end of the day, their equipment was very, very close together, almost identical in what they were going to put into each trucks. There was a little bit of difference on size openings of trucks and heaters that need to be in there for medical supplies and stuff like that. There was a little bit of difference on that. I worked very closely with Jem and Rosemary fire chiefs to develop the tender for this. So they're 100% on board on what we have. And of course, when the tender closed, we all sat together and went through them together as well. So they're very happy with what we have. At the end of the day, we would like to propose that, turn the page here and read it properly. It's recommendation of myself and the County Fire Chiefs of Rosemary, Jem, that Council approve the purchase of 2 light-duty rescue trucks from Intercontinental Truck Body of Coaldale for $208,000. There is a miscellaneous cost of about $12,000 that needs to go into each truck. So we propose that the total cost for this project be $220,070 for each vehicle. No problem.
Okay, questions to Stuart? Ellen?
Good morning, Stuart.
Good morning.
I just wonder why the difference in price for Rosemary and Jem vehicles. Are they different? There's a difference, about $63,000 difference for Rosemary and the Jem. Are those separate, different type of trucks? It says here it was budgeted.
At the end of the day, the council had approved a budget for Rosemary at $312,000 and Jem at $375,000. Unfortunately, I'm not privy to why that was. I know that the direction was for me to order 2 light-duty rescue trucks for each municipality, and at the end of the day, this fits what they needed. So at the end of the day, we just end up with a fair-sized savings from both communities.
Thank you. Any other questions? Kelly? Oh. Okay, motion. Anne-Marie has a question.
These 2 units are replacement trucks. What's going to happen to the old ones?
Very good question to the chair, to Councillor Phillipson. Yeah, those trucks there, I think, are going to end up going either to auction. I'm working closely with a provincial group that actually will come down and do all the work with us, for us, take pictures, put it on a site, and it's a provincial site that anybody can look at, and then it opens up. Everybody's allowed to put their bid in or tender for it, and then at the end of the day, we decide whether or not we like the price that's there, and if we decide to go with that price, then we accept that bid. And at the end of the day, the cost to the County of Newell for that is 7%. They don't take anything else other than a 7% commission on the final sale, and they'll actually do all the work for us, so we don't have to worry about, you know, taking pictures and cataloging and all that kind of stuff.
Kelly also has a question.
Sure.
So, Stuart, I see they scored very closely on the add-ins, on the extra.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered how you would feel about buying locally for that and taking it, buying the truck at International or Intercontinental and then having it suited up at TCB. They were one of the bidders. They scored only 1% less, and they are a local company.
Yeah, I suppose that's a very, very good question. At the end of the day, TC's bid was so much higher than Intercontinental that we didn't do like we did with the brush buggies, where we purchased the chassis and then they put the stuff into the back end of it, or we purchased the vehicles and then they put the stuff in. So I sent this out as a one complete tender, so I didn't have to worry about piecemealing things together. It was one dedicated group that did the whole thing. So, and at the end of the day, I think I was fair in letting everybody bid donuts for donuts on what they had. So unfortunately, I think it's a roughly $50,000 difference from Intercontinental to TCB. As much as I would have liked to have done local, that's a big difference.
Lionel?
Well, it's always nice to see bids come in below budget, and so I would like to make a motion to accept this.
Kelly, you made a motion.
little bit.
Oh, you didn't. Okay. All right, we will take Lionel's motion for that. Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Brian.
I just wanted to ask if you could share your story like you had with us last night at 911 about the replacement for cams, because I think that's a real that resonates well with us at council.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it'd be a great update. So while we were in our new 911 meeting last night, I had the fire chief from GEM texting me, and they had a call out in their area yesterday, and unfortunately it's of a tractor fire. And he sent a message to me that the new active 911 system that we are implementing into all the trucks has worked 100% better than the CAMP system had in 10 years, and that was followed by not even joking. So it's very, very good to see that a product that we picked, the fire chief is very, very happy with, and that echoes throughout the whole county, actually. Everybody right now currently has the app on their phone that they can use. Cactus Communication, as we speak, is actually in Rosemary today putting the new iPads into the fire trucks there, and they're moving on to Dutchess next. So by the end of next week, all the old computers and CAMP system will be out of all of our trucks, and the new iPads will be in there. And it's a very, very good system where I'm working hard with the different municipalities to not just mark fire hydrants and special spots within the towns, but even the oil batteries that are outside of their little areas. And the whole purpose to that is we can identify what that battery is, and at the end of the day, we tend to get their ERPs, and we can actually populate that into the app as well. So now as the firefighters respond to those calls, they're able to bring up the ERP before they even get to scene, and they know what their protocols are on those sites, which helps keep our firefighters a whole lot safer. And Dwayne also echoed last night that AFRAC system is working fantastic, and I'd say the same thing. So,
Thanks, Stuart.
Perfect.
For all of you who are into tractors, that was a tractor that burnt up yesterday. Belonging to my favorite brother-in-law, Russell, who's away. So we had lots of, it was a good, it was just one of those crazy things. It was to do with the DEF recycling, I think, or something.
they have to regenerate to get all the carbon and stuff out of their system if they've been idling at too low of an RPM. So the unfortunate incident with this fellow was he went in for lunch because it needed to regenerate, so he set it to regenerate and work while he went in to have a bite to eat, and unfortunately came out to his tractor smoking, and he tried his best to try and get it out as quick as he can, and of course, because it's a tractor, it's got straw. I think he was working with silage that morning, so there's stuff that's on that tractor that unfortunately just assisted in making it bigger, and he lost the tractor. So.
And as you know, John's been under the weather, so he's sitting reading his phone, and he says, "Look at this." And I said, it was a little picture, you know, on his phone, and it looked like it was an orange tractor. I said, "Is that a Kubota?" Because he said, "Look at Russell's tractor." And I said, "He has a Kubota." John says, "It's on fire." All orange. So we had some good, not to make light of fires, but it was interesting. Thanks, Stuart.
All right, thank you.
So I think we have a few minutes just to go backwards, if need be. 11:01. We can keep moving forward then. We could go to item 11.7. Feedback request from the City of Brooks.
Thanks, Madam Reeve. So this is a RFD from Lane, so I'll take it. And basically it's further discussion on the request from the City of Brooks to the municipalities to discuss the concept of establishing a combined regional recreation board. Essentially, Lane outlines a number of things there, but he suggested that the current patchwork approach with recreation in the 2016 review that the county had completed had shown a number of items that probably need to be addressed long term and where a different approach may be beneficial. He suggests the challenges that there are challenges, of course, with establishing a regional recreation board with the different operating structures, the egg societies, and the approach that they use to managing their multiple facilities across multiple communities. He says that the regional recreation board obviously be contingent upon the communities, as the county does not operate any recreation facilities per se on our own. We do have groups that do, but he says there is merit, and council should consider the regional recreation board concept. Of course, there's a number of ways that could come to fruition. We could have it just deal with capital and long-term capital. You could essentially establish it to make operational matters optional, so that those organizations that aren't interested in being a part of that board could possibly have grant funding returns similar to the way that they have it now and applications approved. The Regional Rec Board could oversee operationals for those organizations that would come in, for things like central booking, maintenance contracts, general administration, staffing assistance for putting in ice, etc. Lane mentions that there's a number of facilities in the region that are on decline, and decisions will need to be made sometime in the near future about the long-term viability of whether they're replaced or whether they're not. He says that a regional approach would help ensure that major decisions of facility programs are not made on a one-off, and that there would be some consistency and thought-out process. A regional approach would help develop a longer-term comprehensive plan with strategic priorities for those decisions. He believes that there is merits in the concept, and that the number of items like the structure and the scope of authority and overall mandate of the Recreation Board would need to be set out from at different scales in terms of what the partnership would want. Those details could follow subsequent to the feedback from the municipalities on the City of Brooks requests. There is a keen interest, I think, in from the county perspective on rates and what the rate of return is, what the usage is, what it's going to cost the ratepayers going forward. I think we all know that the county's been asked to partner in funding these going forward, and so I think from the county perspective, there should be a definite interest to have representation on something that's regional and not individual. So it may revolve around having 2 members of council that are consistent across all the recreation boards, so that the approach is not one-off. But anyway, we have to get back to the City of Brooks, and so this is before you to make a decision if it's something that interests you or not.
So basically, it's just to further the discussion on the concept of establishing a regional rec board. We talked a little bit about this at the last council meeting, and there were 3 councillors absent at that meeting. So any ideas or any thoughts? Or, I mean, basically what we're deciding here is to express interest to our urban municipalities that it's something that we would further explore. So, question, Wayne?
No, I'd just like to move with option 1, because I think we're interested in exploring further. And right now there's basically nothing here to approve, so just continue this discussion.
Any other comments? Tracy?
Have the other municipalities been approached as well if they're interested? Like, has it gone further? Is it just city and county that are having the discussion right now?
Well, the question was raised at the December 18th or 20th regional meeting, and that the city had asked for everybody to get back. So we're following through on that. We haven't talked to the other municipalities of whether they've made a decision or not, but we thought we would determine whether we were interested or not, and then I guess can follow up with them.
So this came out of the December meeting. Brian?
Well, I'm very keenly interested in getting some standardized. I guess the question that I would have is, following the expression of interest, is what are the terms of reference? Like, what is that group going to be tasked with? I think there was a couple of things that were identified within what Kevin's submission and Lane's submission was, and I guess the first one is to standardize some billing. That's one of those key things that I think there's a huge variance across that. So, and that's just one of the examples that comes to my mind. But I mean, I agree with Wayne. I would support us moving to a regional recreational model, but I think there needs to be some definition as far as what those initial tasks are for that rec board to do. They don't have to necessarily do everything at once, but I think to get their feet wet, there needs to be some sort of direction that goes along with that.
And from what I read in here, the focus should be on the merits of the concept. Like, is it even, would we even get that far? Like, to me, that's the question that has to be looked at. So I think a lot of that would come up in that early discussion, whether or not this is even something that was worth taking very far. Because for me, it's a big thought. I can't really imagine how I really want to discuss it, hear what other people think eventually, because it's, for me, with the differences in our, even from it within our county boards to taking it to the other municipalities, there's a lot of things that are different. I mean, I guess the reason for recreation is similar, but the way it happens is very different. So lots to wrap your head around, I think. Kelly.
Yeah, and just to expand on, I think where you were going is we have to remember that all these recreation facilities started from the community. We or an outside body never decided they're going to build a pool or an arena. So for an outside board or for a regional board all of a sudden to decide whether or not a capital project was going to take on or go on, I think is changing community big time.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful of that. I'd be interested in seeing the terms of reference, seeing how deep or how broad the idea for this recreation board would be, keeping in mind that communities typically build these recreation facilities.
Yeah. Wayne?
I'm going to be meeting with my rec board here within the next month probably, and I will discuss this with them and see what their opinion is. In Scandia, we're in Division 4, we've got like 3 communities, and basically it's all that that's our rec. And I'm not sure that they'd be interested in a regional board I'm not sure we'd be telling them what to do, but even to be in part of their discussion. So this is something I'm going to have to bring up with them and see what their opinion is on.
And for me, I don't know what we'd bring up at this point in time because we don't know. We're just looking at a concept, the merits of a concept, I think are important words there. Kevin.
I'll just add a little bit further. The CAOs discussed it as well at our last meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, and there is a consensus that it would be a good idea to have the user groups that run the facilities a part of a committee. So you could have a 2-committee structure, one that deals with operations and that it should be optional. Nobody should be required to operate underneath the board. If they need a certain amount of financing and it's more efficient for them to operate the way they are, then they could certainly continue. I think the most important thing for this concept, in my belief, is the capital and long-term plan, because if you have 2 arenas to replace right now in 2 communities, you replace them both. And do you have a community build a pool and then come back and say the county needs to be in a 50-50 funding arrangement and operational costs hit you, or they can build an indoor facility where all of a sudden they're stuck with operational costs that the county get pulled into that without having decisions on that. So I think if it's taken at the higher scale to start with and deal with the strategy and the long-term vision of recreation and capital, what's going to get replaced. It's not going to be an easy discussion, but I think if it's thought out and discussed, it could move forward that way. And then as time goes along, and if it's functioning well, possibly more can fall under that umbrella. But I wouldn't jump full in with everything. I would start with, I think, the higher level of things. But the terms of reference should be something that, if the communities agree to discuss the concept, should be the agenda item, certainly, to say, what do you want out of it and how do you see it working?
Yeah. Yeah, the higher level approach, certainly. So the talk is what we're voting on right now, and it's always good to have a look at what we might be able to discover by looking at further exploration of it is all that we're voting on. All right. Any other questions? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. And we will have the town of Bassano here this afternoon, I guess, so that I mean, would be a question for them if they have talked about it at their municipal level. All right, coal. Item 12.1, utilities report.
Thank you, Reeve Douglas and councillors. I trust everybody has read it or had an opportunity to read my report. Had a few issues with the cold snap. As you can see, for the Hamlet distribution wastewater systems, I had a couple issues with homeowners calling us up, I don't have water, or can you please turn off my water? And then there again, that's mobile homeowners that for some reason don't realize that every winter we get cold and they need to take precautions for their water systems. So we've dealt with those, not too bad of an issue, but we're used to it. So got those looking after. We did identify that we had a leak in a meter vault in the rural water system outside of Rolling Hills. Pretty minor, just isolated. It was the meter itself, frost plug on the bottom of it, frost plate failed, so we replaced that. It's up and going. It only served one residence and there was no one living there at the time, so it was almost a non-issue, but we got that rectified quickly. We did have a pump failure at Lake Newell Resort again. It was the same pump that they had refurbished the whole top end from it. This time it had a catastrophic failure of the impeller. So two things that were separate incidents with the same pump. Southern Rewind's looking at it and they're replacing it. And they said that there was no signs of that when they had it the first time a few months back. So just one of those things. So unfortunate, but it's away getting repaired as we speak. Expect it back in the next month or so. And then one of the bigger ones, we had a transmission main break just outside of Dutchess, 2 kilometers southwest of Dutchess. It was a mechanical coupler that had failed due to most likely frost heave. Just had some inflection on that joint and caused one of the rings, retaining rings, to fail, which caused a leak on our transmission main. We had to isolate and we were down for about 24 hours all told. Required some excavation by Brooks Asphalt and some, yeah, it took about 24 hours straight through to kind of get it repaired, but it's back and going, and it caused an outage to some rural customers, but we had plenty of water in Dutchess and Patricius, and they have their on-site storage, so there was no issues. Those 2 towns didn't have an outage per se, and the rural customers there, again, they all have storage too, so there was nobody that was out of water to my knowledge. And that basically concludes my report. If there's any questions.
Questions? Brian?
Can't let Cole get away without a question. So, so the failure of that coupler, you said, was probably due to frost. I thought they were like 9 feet down or something like that.
Yeah, but sometimes you can get a little bit of a movement here, there, or it's just due to the weather being minus 40 for a couple weeks and then all of a sudden plus 5. I've noticed it all over the place, especially in that country. If there's a lot of clay in and around there, sometimes you can get some movement kind of thing. But you're right, it was really right close to the road though, like right beside it. It's almost where it went underneath the road. So I don't know if it got pounded down. And it's pretty, a lot of people take that old dump road kind of south of the old dump road by Dutchess. I was out there a couple times and there's a lot of people driving back and forth. So I don't know if it got pounded down a bit or something, but it definitely was some kind of deflection of the pipe that caused the one side to kind of break. Yep.
So I'm trying to visualize this leak a little bit. what kind of volume of water did escape? It just, because that's a high pressure line, you could get potentially a lot of water coming out.
It was definitely apparent that there was quite a bit of water there, because basically the whole system, the way it works is it's based off of a pressure set point. So all our pumps are trying to maintain a certain pressure. So when you have a big hole somewhere, it's trying to maintain, so it's pumping it out quite at trying to maintain pressure in the whole system. So yeah, there can be a lot of water escape out of a 10, 12, 14-inch line, depending on what area of the county it's in a short period of time. So it was definitely, yeah, when you pulled up just on site, you could definitely tell there was a big leak.
As our population in the rural areas decreases, and I'm wondering if we're seeing any yet where all of a sudden there's nobody at the end of a line.
Depending on, it's a pretty big county. We have, it's 6,200 square kilometers, and some laterals have a lot of people on it, and some have very few to almost none. So yes, there's definitely places where there are some laterals that only have 2-3 houses on it, and then the last long section of it will be no one kind of thing to the end of the line. So part of our daily routine, and we've put a lot of time, effort, and planning into it to make sure that all these end points are flushed and residuals are high. We have about 450 flush hydrants in the rural system, and we make sure that we visit them at appropriate times so that they don't get left and you get one at the end of a line somewhere that there aren't a lot of people, where it sits there for months because no one goes out there. We've got tailor-made maps with all those sites GIS, so we can make sure we know which ones need to be flushed and there aren't any ones that go long periods of time. I don't know if that's exactly what your question you're asking, but...
And I'm wondering if there's some lines that we could be shutting off.
Not that I'm aware of. There's at least, like 1 or 2 customers on every lateral.
The future in the rural water project isn't that old yet, but it's going to happen. Farms are disappearing. And I don't know, it's just, I can see it becoming a problem.
I think the problem there is that we might run into there's not enough isolation valves. Like ideally that might be, rather than have a dead end at the end of the line and have nothing, if there's nobody for the last 2 kilometers of it, why not just isolate it 2 kilometers back and then save you having to flush that line out and keep it? So that it is possible, but I'd have to look more closely at the detailed as-built drawings to see how often but I know even on that's part of the problem why fixing that one leak that we had on our main line there, you find it pretty quickly, you know what you have to do, you get it excavated pretty quickly, but it takes about 10 hours to drain 1 kilometer of line. Well, we had 2 kilometers almost of line in between isolation valves, and that's just the closest ones that were available to us. So it was a little bit quicker than that, but it took probably about 14, 15 hours to have that line drained down after we had it isolated, kind of basically waiting so that we could repair that. So yeah, there are ways that we could maybe operate it a little more efficiently if there's more shut-off valves or things were looped or stuff like that, but that all goes back to the engineering and the beginning design phase, and unfortunately a lot of those things cost a lot more money, so that's part of it too.
Your questions? Tracy?
Just in regards to the lift station at Lake Noel Resort, was there an interruption of service for a while? Like, do they have a backup pump and then now there's one in there? And this other one's getting rebuilt, or how was all that?
Yes, all your lift stations in all the hamlets, there's redundancy built into them for this specific reason. It's common practice there's several reasons why one of the pumps could go down, whether it's catastrophic failure, but we've also seen people putting things down that they shouldn't be, so they get clogged, they trip, they do stuff like that. So there's always two in every lift station for that reason.
Any other questions for Cole? Seeing none, I guess we'll wait till we have Mark's other report to approve both the reports. So that'll work. Thanks, Cole.
Thank you.
Keep up the warm weather happening, okay? All right, amazing. On schedule. Sorry, Matt, I thought that I'd be able to sneak in, but we have a delegation at 11 o'clock, and I'm assuming that's you folks here. And so don't stress. You look a little tense always when people come in here. We're fairly friendly. The hardest part is that somebody has to come up to the front here and do some talking, and Ariana's looks like she's got her everything's working up there for you. So someone, spokespeople, persons, all of you can come up. You don't all have to talk, however you want to do it. Are there 4 chairs? I can't see the 4th one. Perfect, there's 4 chairs, so we'll do some introductions as well. We'll go around our table and let you know who everybody is here and what part of the county we're from, and then you'll be able to tell us all about yourselves and what you're here for. So welcome. I'm Molly Douglas, and I represent the northern part of the county, the Gem, Finnegan, Duck Lake area, places you probably never knew existed in the county of Newell, but the north part anyhow. I get to chair these meetings because I'm the reeve, and that's a fancy word in the county for mayor, actually, in case you don't know what a reeve is. And we'll move over to my right to Lionel.
Good morning, Lionel Juss. I represent Division 10, which is north and east of Brooks.
Good morning, Hebe Callan, Tilly area, Division 2.
Good morning, Tracy Fife, Division 5, and that's south and west around Brooks.
Anne-Marie Phillipson, Patricia area.
Brian DeShong, and I represent the area around the Village of Dutchess.
Good morning, Clarence Hamilton, and I represent Div 1, which is the Rolling Hills area.
Welcome, I'm Kevin Stevenson, County Administrator.
Good morning, I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm from the west side of the county, around Bassano.
Good morning, Wayne Hammergan. I'm from Division 4, which is Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good morning, I'm Ellen Unra, and I represent the countryside around the village of Rosemary.
Good morning, Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Good morning, Sandra Stanwood, Brooks Bulletin.
And so we'll let you folks introduce yourselves. There's warning signs all over the place that, you know, this is being recorded. You're on television, you're on Brooks Bulletin tape, your cell phones should be off, your hat should be off, all sorts of stuff going on here. So we'll let you introduce yourselves and get started. Oh, and forgot, you have to turn your microphone on.
You didn't tell me that.
I didn't. I knew there was something I'd miss. So I'm going to remind our council as well to speak into their mics because it's sometimes hard to be heard in this impressive building.
Your Worship, councillors, the 4 representatives, I'm Paul Seaton, one of the directors, James Mitchell, our Vice President, Nathan Crosby, our Manager of Sales and Marketing, and Terry Lee Yeaman, our Office Manager. I think I shall speak a little bit, and Nathan has something prepared as well. Just a very brief history, plus some elements that I believe are contributory factors to our successes, hopefully of interest, but I believe the issue is over including our name on the county signs as you enter the county. Is that correct?
A new sign, not one that's already there.
I have no idea about this delegation today, so if there's somebody that knows something more than I do, so. Is there an issue?
Would you like me to explain this first before they speak?
Yes.
Okay.
If there's something that would help
All
me
right,
understand.
it was a proposal, we had just kind of a meeting with the councillors, and we thought it'd be a good idea to recognize the Bandits on either side of Brooks as national junior A champions. So I went about and took it upon myself to get some quotes on this and talk to landowners who are willing to donate their land to this cause and not charge. And I've got some quotes here on the sheets in front of you, the councillors. And I contacted Paul to see if he was all in favor of this, and he was. So here we are to discuss this proposal to put these signs up outside Brooks. Recognize our team.
I've been out of commission for a bit, so I wasn't in on this discussion, so I'm sorry that I'm sounding not very smart today, because I'm not. Thanks, Hubie.
So, as I was saying, a brief history, plus some elements that I believe are contributory factors to our successes, hopefully of interest. I'm here to blow the trumpet, really. Our first season was 2000-2001. The first 4 seasons we finished dead last, a league record probably never to be broken. Fortuitously, the community support persisted in a big way. Season 5, we finally made the playoffs. When tickets went on sale, the queue stretched from the old arena out into the curling club car park. One image imprinted in my head is the look on the face of the next in line immediately after we sold the last ticket, with the end of the line still out of sight. Then there was mediocrity for some years, during which time we came to the stark realization that our old arena could definitely not sustain this team. During a new arena meeting in November 2006, City Council was stunned by the Alberta Junior Hockey League then chairman Bob Clark, who cited Brooks as by far the worst facility in the league. That immediately elevated the urgency attached to Phase 3 of the leisure centre development. We went from worst to best in that exercise. We only survived to the new arena by introducing assigned seating for the last full season in the old arena, thereby bringing forward incoming season ticket revenue by 3 months. Financially, we were out of money. We overcame that crisis only to be faced by an even bigger one, that surrounding the for good reason release of a coach who had local connections. All hell broke loose. Suddenly being a director was a curse. A key motivating factor in all sport is adversity. The adversity from the hostile storm that followed was a titanic motivating factor. Another motivating factor came when tragedy struck on the 5th of July 2011. Number 23, Nick Crosby, died from a road accident after our summer camp. The 10-11 team, plus 2 directors, traveled to his funeral in Sun Valley, Idaho, marking the point from which our team and whole organization began its climb to the very top of Canadian Junior A hockey. The very next season, our franchise finished first in the league and went on to become league champions. The Doyle Cup, which is British Columbia versus Alberta for a berth in the Nationals, ended in disappointment. It seemed we were just one top-end player away from a different outcome. But little did we know that we were 1 year away from something even more special. Season 13 saw club and league records tumbling. We held the #1 place in the national rankings for the whole season. And a momentous happening was when a 50-50 with 10,000 limit was drawn before the end of warm-up at a home playoff game. That night we went on to second and third draw, making the total for the night a few dollars short of 30,000. A few weeks later, the team returned as national champions. 2 days after that, a victory parade in Brooks rewarded a tenacious community for 12 years of perseverance with our organization. That was our present coach's third season in charge. Since then, we have been in the last 5 of the Nationals 3 more times, a total of 4 times in 7 years. I think that's quite an achievement. I recall John Petrie saying to me immediately after securing a place in the Nationals for the second time, I quote, "It was beyond my wildest dream that we would ever even compete in the national championships, let alone win. And now we're going for a second time. And now to be going for a second time is incomprehensible." Furthermore, in Cale McCarr, we had a 57-year-old Alberta Junior League highest ever NHL draft pick at number 4. The last place team, Colorado, was most distressed after dropping to number 4 in the 17 draft. They are distressed no more, as McCarr seems to have become the most effective pick of that draft. Not only have we risen to the top on the ice, it has also been achieved off the ice. We are now considered one of 2 at the very top of over 130 teams in the country. Our Nationals of last May was declared by Hockey Canada to be the best ever and with the largest ever surplus. Incidentally, the resulting legacy fund will all be consumed within the County of Newell, and Hockey Canada is keen for us to make further bids. Actually, an announcement on another event we're going to be running before too long is imminent. To what do we attribute our success? Well, first and foremost, it's a very supportive community. Then, a volunteer base that's second to none. We are frequently praised by league staff and other teams on our game day operating. At the Nationals, we needed just short of 200 volunteers. We turned away as many as we accepted. Third, those tough doldrum years resulted in a fear we would never ever find a good general manager coach. We took a chance on a very young individual that had impressed our board as well as a highly respected scout of ours. He now has by far the best record in Canada at this level. A key element of his success is that he doesn't look for good hockey players. He looks for good people that can play hockey. A team with chemistry has greater potential than a team of elite players. Then we have a staff that goes above and beyond that ask of them. During the Nationals, I received a report email that was sent by Terry Lee at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nathan, at the drop of a hat this year, and at great personal sacrifice, took on a huge workload after a mid-season staff departure 2 months ago. Then we have a board that gives all our staff the tools with which to do the job. Additionally, most of the decisions it has made over the years have been positives. One structural factor that I consider looms large as a contributory factor in is the distinct separation between the hockey and the business. The board's sole and only role is the business side of the organization. It does not interfere with the hockey, not even permitted in the dressing room. Finally, a city and a county that recognize our economic impact. Annually, we ourselves spend some $1 million within the community. All factors considered, we sense our annual economic impact to be in the region of $10 million. The economic impact of the Nationals Week alone last May was deemed to be in the region of $4 million. We shall be hosting other events and intend to bid for the Nationals again in the future, not too distant future. To close, Brooks is now a name that resonates in the North American and European hockey worlds, and also well beyond by nature of our team generating Cinderella-style news on many occasions. So, as a county resident, there is certainly appeal that the County of Newell is labelled the home of the Bandits, and on behalf of the organisation, thanks for this initiative. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Questions? So, Hubie, I throw this back at you then. So you began this, and so...
All right.
This is just a little reason why, obviously. That was an excellent capture of everything that's gone on with the Bandits, all the good stuff for our community.
Thanks, Paul. That was great history on the Bandits. Like I said, this was an initiative that we thought about a couple of weeks ago, and we thought we should kind of recognize the Bandits through the county as well, not just the city. So I've went to some sign companies and got some quotes and some drawings. As you can see up there, there's the example. I'd like to see the county one a little bigger, but that's okay. We can change that. It's just a proposal for that design. It can be changed later if we want to. There are 2 landowners that are willing to donate their land to put the signs up, erect the signs free of charge. Other companies are charging rent to put signs up, and then the other dealing is if you put them up in the highway ditches, you have to contact Alberta Transportation, and we all know how long that takes to approve that. So I haven't talked to them. So I have the quotes there before you, what it would cost to put these up, and the installation will be done by HK Bobcat free of charge.
Thanks, Hubie. So this obviously we can have a discussion about, and I'm curious, when you mentioned, our highways, I think private property is a much better option. We'll probably have to obey some of our own rules. I think that's probably why Maria might be sitting listening. The other thing is, being a North Country person, we have other entrances. You're thinking of just the number 1 highway? Yeah. Might have to consider Highway 36 too.
2 signs, 2 4x8 signs.
Yeah, okay. All right, if we have no other questions for our group, go ahead anyhow. Kelly, you had your hand up.
I was just going to add that it's great to have winners in our community, and hockey is Canada's national sport, and so I think it's a great idea to recognize. Sorry?
It's lacrosse, actually.
Is it seriously? Who did that? When did that happen?
A long time ago.
Oh, well, okay, so scratch that. Yeah. I am in favor of this. When I was part of the conversation that Hubie's talking about, and when it first started, they thought, well, 1 sign at an entrance to Brooks or something, and I was the one that suggested, I think it should go in 4 directions as well, recognizing the different entrances into our county. It is a county sign, so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'm like Molly. I think the 4 directions recognized would be great.
And we can work on that. Kevin?
Thanks, Madam Reeve. So I'll just mention that as a formal national junior champ, before 3 of that table was born, but you were around. It's a tough exercise to undertake, and a lot of credit to the team and management and the staff for what you've accomplished. I think if you do signs, I would not just put 2019 up. I think that does a disservice to the 2013 team. I would also leave that open somehow with some kind of fancy painting to add some more numbers to it, because I think those signs might grow old pretty quick if that team comes through this year like I think they might yet.
Yeah, I'd say so too. All right. Yes,
Sorry.
Nathan.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I had a few.
Yes, I forgot to ask if there were, and I knew you were
no worries.
mentioned. You go right ahead.
Thank you, and thanks to Paul. This is obviously a tremendous honor. It's my job to have relationships between the team and the businesses in our area, whether it's in the city or the county. So, and if there's one thing that I think connects all our fans, our staff, our players, our board members, our volunteers, it's that we're fiercely proud of where we live and the city and the county that we represent. So it's been my pleasure to work with all of the local businesses in my 3 years with the team, and we have faced some tough economic times, but our local business community still pulls through. We've seen our highest levels of sponsorship in the history of the team during this period, and that's a credit to them. I've been proud to make Brooks my new home. I've worked in other junior A organizations in my professional career, and the level of support that our team has seen is not matched by anywhere else I've been. And I'm very excited to know that anyone who visits the county of Newell will know that they're in Bandit country. That's awesome. And I just want to thank all of you, the county of Newell, for recognizing our team with this incredible gesture. And my goal is to continue to represent our team in the public, help grow our business community, and help our business community grow with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. I like that line, you're in Bandit country. It sort of fits in with the whole Western heritage too, so might have to, the sign's getting bigger by the minute with the years and the slogans and stuff. So anything else for this group today, Hubie?
I have another suggestion that we change the National Junior A champions and the black letters to a brighter color. It's a little hard to see, but like I say, that can still be changed.
And those are the details that can be worked out, I'm assuming, going forward if this is moving forward. And we can have our own discussion around the table, I think, about where the signs go and the money that will be spent on them. And obviously, so there's probably some trademark issues or something with a sign that, Hubie, you can be keeping in touch with the group here. So, anything else, Hubie?
Well, now that it's changed to 4 signs, you'll have to double.
Well, that has not been passed by council. Remember, we still do need to make motions. Anything else? All right. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Wayne?
Wanted to thank you guys for all the entertainment I get all winter. I can't wait to go to the games and I have a real good time. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you for your time given today. Really, really appreciate it. It's good to get together and to meet some of you folks, and yeah, keep up the fine work. I can see you. That computer is so. You're in the best spot there, aren't you?
There's a reason my nickname is Shorty.
I don't.
You know where Jim is? I played with the Jim Generals.
Oh wow! I am impressed. That goes back a few years.
Already holds the shutout record.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Paul, James, Nathan, and Terry Lee, for being here today. Much appreciated. We'll be in touch. Okay. Well, we can further go on with this discussion and get it completed. If you want, we can continue this discussion. I haven't looked at any of the information. I don't see it here, signs or costs or whatever. Tracy.
I just had a question, where did you all get quotes from? And with, because you have aluminum and chloroplast? which would stand up better because they're going to be out in the elements like all the time. I just wondered on what stands up better if it's.
Aluminum would last longer and stand up, but it's a little costlier. Yeah.
You get a better deal with more signs?
That's a possibility. I haven't talked to them about that yet. And like I say, we can change the signs too. This is just the first draft. So with other companies, you have to pay rent to them monthly to put the sign up, and you do not own the graphics. And this way, we are sole owners of the sign. The other company, you have to pay rent every month, and it gets very costly.
So signs are always interesting because of the way people love them for target practice, which blows me away. But I remember when we replaced the big signs that welcome people, the maps, to the county. I'm not sure what that stuff is, but it's stayed pretty good, hasn't it? Yeah, and I do realize that. But if you're going to have a sign, it needs to be a good sign. Wayne?
Wouldn't Mark know what stands up and what doesn't? Like, our municipal services put up signs all over the place.
Yeah, Jeff might know too. I don't know. There's probably signs and there's signs, and I think we've discovered that over the years for sure. Just have a few minutes. I thought we could fill in before our public hearings to talk about that. Is that plastic? Do you know the welcome or the County of Newell signs? I don't know. I know there's a company in Medicine Hat, it seems to me, that did those signs, and they are expensive. Redcliffe? Yeah. But
maybe Jeff can answer that question. The material used for signs, which one holds up best?
This would be a 4x8 sign.
I guess Brian has a question or a comment or a suggestion.
Well, I'd like to do 4, but I guess my question for Kevin would be, where would we find this in the budget? What line item do we?
Well, you would approve it, and Matt will add it in with regards to the final budget approval that we will be bringing in March or April.
So I think we should move. I would like to move on this. I think it's a great idea, and there's a lot of thought put into it. At our impromptu meeting, it was more going to be County of Newell, home of the national champions, at the top. So, and we're just going to have Bandits. We're going to have Brooks in there. So. I'm just kidding, of course. But anyways, I would make a motion for the purchase of 4 signs of the higher quality ones, and to try to secure the 2 sites on the Highway 36.
4.
Well, we have Hubie already has 2 secured for Highway 1, And if we could get 2 more for Highway 36, I think that's appropriate. We do have 4 significant entry points to this community, and I think it's warranted that we put them in all of those locations. It's quite a feat.
So, Brian, are you putting a sum of money on that? Or that we investigate it further? What?
Well, I'd like to, but I don't know if my math skills are all that great to be able to take what Hubie's presented here and times it by 2. Could we say up to 10,000? Would that be appropriate, Kevin? Okay, then that would be my motion, up to 10,000 on 4 signs.
Tracy?
Were we going to do a little bit of more investigation on sign type? Like Jeff recommended, like maybe wood, or like who would be the best to know what's the best sign? Like I just want to make sure if we're going to invest the money that we want to last.
Yeah, I think we'd need to get some more information. Hubie?
Well, the quotes that are there, including the posts, 2x4s, and plywood sign behind the sign to make it sturdy. So this quote on the aluminum, times that by 2, and that would be the total cost for materials for 4 signs. If we get the land for free from the other 2 landowners to the north and the south. So 2,896.94 for 4 signs, because they're going to be installed for free. And that's hoping that the other 2 landowners don't want to charge for their.
Okay, so that would be going with the information provided here, basically, to move forward with leaving Hubie in charge of this. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Jeff, did you? No?
Yeah, like I say, this isn't set in stone yet. It's just their proposal. Yeah, we can tweak it up the way we want. Yep, thanks, Jeff.
Okay, we'll have a vote on the motion then that's made by Brian to provide 4 signs, with a maximum cost of $10,000 for this project for our county and the Bandits. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks, Jeff and Hubie, and we will invite you to come to the table now for our public hearings, our planning people. Kelly?
Just a quick FYI, I Googled our national sport, and just to be clear, the winter national sport is hockey, the summer is lacrosse. They both come up.
Well, obviously the old people lost on this one, because as a kid in school, we were always taught that it was lacrosse, and Google is Google.
Whether it's right or not
I
doesn't matter.
spending 9 days around medical people. They talk a lot about Dr. Google and his dangerous ideas. So it was interesting. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to our agenda. First page, item 7.1. We need a motion to move into public hearings. First of all, Ellen will move us in. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And we're at item 7.2. We'll have a look at, or have Lenz give us a quick background and what this is all about, or Maria, I perhaps, it should be, whoever. Yes.
This is a public hearing and first reading for road closure bylaw 1966-19. This landowner would like to close this portion of road because he's farming the road allowance. So we sent notifications to the surrounding landowners, and in the very last minute we heard from the EID, and they would like this road to remain open until just past the quarter line so that they can access the northwest of 1413. This application is for a road closure and lease, so they would be permitted to use that road allowance through the lease agreement, but they still would rather the road remain open to that section. So I have that's not the right one. Sorry, I have an alternate map that shows what the EID was happy with. They were happy with this road closure. So this still accounts for all the metal of the irrigation that's going over the road, so that's still accounted for in this. I spoke to the landowner. He would like the road to be closed to the full extent, but he was okay with the EID comments and is okay with this option as well. So there's two options now presented. The initial one is to close it from just above the quarter line to the river. This is option 2, given what the EID has said. So we would recommend that council approve this option 2, and for first reading of road closure bylaw 1966-19. So this will include the most southerly 775 meter portion of road allowance. So that keeps just that little piece open, and then right to the river.
Wayne, is there a question?
Yeah, I noticed that little piece that the EID wants to keep open is still going to be sprinkled on by the pivot. So he's basically still going to be farming the road allowance. And another question is on the bottom there, are those 2 quarters next to the river, are they consolidated under one title? See, that we could run into problems we've had before. So no, maybe not. So, but I'm a little bit concerned with that, because the way I look at it, if he was to move over into that dry corner, then maybe we could do that. See what I mean?
No. Kevin?
No.
No, I don't understand.
Council always has the option with a road closure and lease to reopen. So it's not like a road closure and sale where you don't have the land anymore.
Right.
So if you do run into one of them quarters changes hands and the new person's not on the lease and they don't let them come through or whatever happens, you can reopen it.
What I'm trying to avoid is what we had happen in Rolling Hills, but yeah, that's a different problem. But on this little strip that the EID wants to leave open, that little piece, they're still farming it, is where I'm getting. And if they move the road allowance, I'm not even sure you can do it, but move it over into that dry corner, we could actually, the EID could still have their road allowance, and it wouldn't be farming our land. You see what I mean?
I do, but that's not the, excuse me, that's not the reason we're here.
Oh, okay.
Today,
okay.
I believe.
Yeah, I'm off kilter here. I'm sorry about that.
Road allowances can be
Can be
sold and bought and moved around a bit, I believe, but today all we're looking at is that the idea of closing and leasing that yellow line. Brian?
Is there any access needed for well sites?
That is a good question. We did circulate this to utility companies and we didn't hear back from them, but they would be granted access via that lease agreement. So utility companies, emergency vehicles, because the road is not being sold, it's still open for some uses, just not for public use.
Any other questions on this, Ellen?
So just for clarification, so some of the quarters are not owned by that landowner. Do they have to give permission as well if there's a different landowner involved on either side? Or is it all the same owner?
The quarters that are on the east side, so the east half of 5, those are owned by the same landowner, and the southwest of 4, so those are all the same landowner, these ones, and then this one is owned by the EID. So that is why the EID would like that little piece of road to remain open so they can access this piece without having to deal with the lease agreement that way. Yeah.
Clarence?
I think the suggestion staff has made is the wise one to do, because we do want access to that quarter that the EID owns. And I too prefer that it's not in the lease agreement. So I would suggest that I would make the motion that
we're in public
hearing. Oh, sorry.
I didn't say it. I'm slow.
Any other questions in regards to this bylaw for road closure? Kelly?
We talk a lot about access to the river. This is limiting access, so within the next road allowances is we still have access to the river, correct? Or is that?
Sorry, maybe I'm not understanding. So there are other road allowances open, you know, down the grid?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So this is actually closing access to the river. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions on this closure and lease application? All right, we'll move on to the next bylaw for public hearing, which is a land use amendment, item 7.3 on our agenda, bylaw 1967-19. Go ahead.
Thank you. You have in front of you an application for land use amendment to rezone the land that's described in the package from public service and agriculture to residential, or sorry, to rural business. The area to be rezoned is 32.18 acres, and it's just outside the hamlet of Tilly. The purpose of the application is to redesignate portions of 4 existing parcels, and I guess there are 2 ongoing subdivisions as well that are located within the portions of the land to be rezoned, and MPC has approved a subdivision on a portion of the lands, Block A, and the residual 15.6 acres as well that is subject to this application. So MPC has also approved a subdivision to create 3 lots within there, and the application is intended for private recreation development. Circulation was sent out, and there are no objections. Alberta Transportation, though, has suggested that a permit be required should they want access to the highway, and there's some stipulations with that.
Questions from council? No questions regarding this one? All right. last chance. Otherwise, I'll call for a motion to move out of public hearing. Get a mover. Anne Marie moves that. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. So we are out of public hearing and moved to the motions for the bylaws. The first one is the road closure for first reading. Clarence?
Can I try again?
You may.
I was just being impatient.
You were.
I'll make that motion as presented.
Okay, and that would be the first reading for the description as up here on the map, correct? With the EID consideration. Questions? Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for the second bylaw, 6719, a land use amendment. This one is for second and third reading, so we need a motion for second reading first of all. Lionel moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for third reading, Tracy moves. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried also. Thank you. I think that completes the public hearing work for today. And Todd is on the agenda for 11:45, so we'll look at that. Item 10.1 on the agenda. How are you, Todd?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
Hope everybody else is too. It's a beautiful day outside.
Is it? Good. Some of us think we are outside. Somewhere else, it just sort of feels like there's weird air in here or something. All right.
All right, well, I don't plan on taking up too much of your time, but I thought we'd give the Fieldman report for January since we were away the last meeting. So our CCIP is running really well. I think we have two great partners, and anyways, I think it's going really well. Last year, we brought in a total of 1,665 coyotes, which was just down from 1,726 in 2018. I did share the strychnine news, but want to put it in the minutes so that we do have strychnine till 2024, which is fantastic news. We have strychnine, and we've ordered a little more to be sold. So hopefully, end of February and early March, we can see some gophers coming out. We can get some early control done. They always say that early control is better than late control, and I mean it's relatively obvious to kill a mother before she's a mother when control a mother Richardson ground squirrel before she's a mother. So that makes sense. The less we have to do, the better. We did do our coyote survey on January 21st to 24th. Not the greatest results ever. We had kind of some hard-packed snow. The guys mentioned you really had to get out and look for claw prints in the hard snow, which is not perfect. We like to have fresh snow to count. So we think that might have affected it, but our relative abundance index, which is what RAI stands for, was at 228. And I mean, last year we had 432, and right around average is about that 400. So we'll definitely have to monitor that. And we remember that the reason we do count coyotes or coyote tracks and to do this RAI is just to make sure that our CCIP program isn't negatively impacting our ecosystem. So something we definitely want to keep in the front. We are gearing up for spring. We have contacted our seasonal staff, and we're advertising for the ones that we need for this year. I think we're in a little better shape than we thought we were going to be. We have some coming back that we didn't expect to, but we do have openings for seasonal labor and vegetation management technicians. So a little extra training this year, but not too bad. The guys built a new handgun sprayer, and I'm really proud of how it came out. One of our goals is to be able to take these units off and put them on another truck, whether that be a shared unit, whether that be just a different use.
Resulted in
So it's about 15 minutes, and they can take that sprayer completely off and put it on a new unit, which is kind of pretty cool the way they have it set up. So anyways, if you ever want to see it, the guys I'm sure would be happy to show you. We also put the lights on the back of our rental units. Just a brief background, we have the loading chute and the panels. Kind of back in the day, they were specifically bought to aid the fire departments. And, you know, when we have a rollover of a cattle liner on the highways, we need to corral things, we need to load them back up again. We've never really seen them go down the road. But anyways, Stuart had sent us a video of it going down the road, and you couldn't really see that there was a loading chute behind this 2-ton truck, which was kind of surprising. So anyways, we took that as a sign, and we've got lights on all of our rental equipment, so that's good. We did a full workup on the drills. I believe the last one is out now, taken off and putting back on lots of discs and bearings and all that sort of good stuff. So that's done. And then next week, doing a little nutrient management seminar. We're going to host it downstairs in the lunchroom and the EOC room, so we're pretty stoked about that. I think last time I talked to Catherine, somewhere around 12 to 15 people signed up, but we're hoping for quite a bit more than that. So if you know of anybody that would like to maybe listen in on some great speakers talking about nutrient management, but I mean a little bit more specifically to manure, application timelines, some of the rules, where they can and can't do it, those kinds of things through our great friends at NRCB. And then obviously we always like to plug a little bit of the environmental farm plan and the CAP funding that's available through the province. And lastly, I hope everybody enjoyed the 2020 conference. I think it was great. From the speakers that I listened to, the one thing that's constant in the last 75 years is change. And I mean, we see it all the time, but maybe we don't really necessarily recognize it until it's way past us. So anyways, that's what I kind of had to talk about today.
Questions for Todd? Hubie.
This may have been asked before, but when guys get coyotes out in Saskatchewan and try to bring them here, can you tell the difference between Alberta and Saskatchewan coyotes to pay the bounties?
I don't have a lot of first-hand knowledge of it, but I'm told that our partners can. Micah from the Tilly area has been working with coyotes forever, with way back into when Bruce was the main buyer there for us, and Lane and Jean as well. And they tell me they can tell by the type of fur, the amount of fur, the color of the fur, and specifically they tell me they can tell the areas of the county that the coyote came from. More bush, more prairie, less prairie. I don't know. It is interesting, yeah.
They have a rider's stripe on their back. But I did actually have a question, and it sort of revolves around some of the work you have done in the past with the videos, the little videos that you did last year, and in that regards, a little bit of the information that we had in our conference about being a little bit more proactive in agriculture and showing how positive, those positive stories that we have in our communities. And if you could utilize like what you did last year, but also maybe develop those little short YouTube stuff and put them on our website for people that, you know, that maybe don't know anything about agriculture or the county of Newell, but you know, there's some great stories about, you know, farm families and ranch families, and I'm not suggesting we develop a whole new production scheme, but I think you guys did a really good job on the ones you provided last year for us. And I just think this is another way to get our message out about agriculture and how good agriculture is in our wonderful country. So I don't know if that resonated with you, but it sure did with me about those, you know, the positiveness and you know, that, you know, we are 2 or 3 steps. Most urbans in our world are 2 or 3 steps away from the farm, generations away from the farm. And how do we provide them with some positive information rather than some of the stuff that gets floated out there?
That's a great suggestion. We did 2 last fall to be kind of put back out again this year on pest control, and you know, when we were thinking about doing videos, we were thinking about promoting ourselves, and we hadn't really thought about promoting all the wonderful people that we have within the county as well, or the ag practices, or all those kinds of things. So it's an interesting thought. I wonder, yeah, I'll put that, I just don't know how to do it, right? We have Rural Roots do our post-production stuff. Taking a video is very easy. I'm not super great at, you know, adding voices and music and all that sorts of things to the background. I'm not a real techie guy that way, but it's a good idea. Maybe we should learn a little bit more on how to do it easily.
Just in your free time. Anything else for Todd? No? Thank you, Todd. Matt, please join the front table. Oh, yeah, his report. Tracy moves. Todd's acceptance of the ag report. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, we are at item 11.4.
All right, I won't take too much of your time because I think I can hear your stomachs growling already. But I think we do have some important information that we received from the Minister of Municipal Affairs at the beginning of this year, and it's something I think we just want to highlight and make sure that everybody on council is aware of. So we received a letter notice about work that had been completed on a review of the assessment models for wells, pipelines, machinery, and equipment over the last year. And the initial results indicate there's going to be potentially significant shifts in assessment. They don't indicate the direction, but I think we know which direction that's going. Key points from the minister's letter is that stakeholder engagements are underway now, early 2020. They're moving quick. Final decisions to be made in spring, which is just around the corner. Those changes would apply to the 2021 tax year. Because they weren't as fast as they would have liked to have been, they're going to extend that same 35% reduction to shallow gas assets that they did in 2019, again in 2020, and they're not giving us any tax credits this year, so we get to absorb that. We anticipated this, we built that into our budget model, so we don't have to scramble right now. And any concerns can be sent to the Assistant Deputy Minister. I did summarize what they're doing for the stakeholder engagement. RMA has a number of representatives on there, all of which in a separate letter from Gerald Rhodes. It sounds like it's a pretty good team. They've been at the table before on these things and have some expertise in the assessment area and oil and gas. The other organizations on the committee are there for you to look at as well. This is only the first of 3 model reviews that they expect to have completed in the next little bit here. And then I was happy to see they're planning on updating the models every 3 to 5 years moving forward. I think it's really unfortunate that we're in kind of a panic mode with this, right? We're dealing with some shocking adjustments in our reality, so it will be nice if they can keep those models current moving forward, so that, you know, it's maybe a little easier to absorb the impacts. What else do we have in here? The RMA has made a point that they'll be pushing for municipal affairs to engage each municipality directly before any decisions are finalized. I've included a summary for you on the impact of the shallow gas. We expect it's going to be similar to last year. This is us. Over 2/3 of our assessment is linear oil and gas. It has a real impact on our ability to have sustainable long-term financial plans. When we have, you know, the MGA come out and say 3-year operating, 5-year capital, we actually plan further out than that. You're always making assumptions, but to have this big of an impact and to not have certainty where things are going in the future, it really kind of leaves you feeling unsettled about, well, how robust are our plans? Is it sustainable? Should we be socking more away? And then on the other side of it, what is industry's ability to bear the tax burden that we've put on them? So really, this is an information for council. I've encouraged you to reach out to the deputy minister and let them know that we do want to be directly involved or have that input in this engagement. Timeliness of future updates. I've got there a fact-based approach to determine costs used in any model. Let's keep politics out of it, picking winners and losers in industry, and then clear communication back to us about any justification for the changes that they've got there. So just wanted to highlight that for you. I know we've got somebody coming in this afternoon, and it's, I think, a whole new world that we're entering into.
So I just want to make sure I understand this then. When you say that we should be included directly in the engagement, do you mean to be at the table with this group?
I don't think that opportunity is going to be available. They've already formed their committee with RMA and the others, but that point where RMA has said, you know, we are going to be encouraging the ministry to reach out and engage municipalities directly. I think it wouldn't hurt for us to, you know, get in the ear of the deputy minister and say we expect some clear communication before just getting a letter and updated assessment values next year and having to deal with it. I thought it was kind of not funny in the minister's letter that they said, you know, we're sending out the assessment year modifiers so you can plan, you know, include these in your budget. Well, that's January. We're like, budget, that ship has sailed, right? So it was not soon enough for us to actually incorporate it into any of our plans. We need that stuff in advance. You know, September 30th at kind of the latest for us to really chew on it.
So Matt, how many municipalities would be as affected like we are?
I don't have a good answer for that off the top of my head. I can't remember what the shallow gas ended up impacting. It wasn't a lot. I want to say around the 20 mark, but we were one of the heaviest.
Yeah,
right? Us, Cypress. Yeah,
Cypress and us. Was there 15 municipalities? There it is. Okay. Yeah. Oh, sure. You do that.
So the list that they gave us was, County of Newell was the top one with for tax impacts, Cypress County, Nehill, Special Areas, Wheatland, Red Deer, Rocky View, Mountain View, Lacombe, Stettler, Starland, Panoka, Yellowhead, Vulcan, and Camrose.
So certainly not an unreasonable request, Matt, to start letting them know that we exist and the problems that it is presenting.
Looks like about 36 or so million in taxes.
Total. Yeah.
Do you know, have you got any idea with how this policing model is going to affect us yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I've incorporated it into the final budget that's going to roll out. The first year, this year we're looking at just over 200,000. We don't have to cash flow that apparently until next year, and then it goes up year over year until we end up paying about 858,000 moving forward. So it's a big program change for us. Like, we don't just add, in my time here, we haven't just added, you know, another program of $200,000 line item for something that we don't control. And then to have it ramp up to nearly $1 million and, you not have the opportunity to control the boots on the ground. So I had reached out to municipal affairs about, for financial reporting, because I'm a geek that way, right? How do I show this? Because I'd like to show it as a requisition, because we don't have control over it. You're saying we have to pay it. No, just it's an expense. Might become a requisition, but right now it'll show in operation. So we'll have a police line show up now.
Matt, can that show up on our municipal tax notices as a provincial ask, or not ask, tell?
We could set a separate rate for that if we wanted to point that out to our ratepayers as a matter of emphasis.
I think it was the town of Bazzano I noticed was going to do that. This was, a provincial assessment, basically. Our taxpayers, it's so complicated of a system when we end up having to collect so much money that we just hand over to the province. And I mean, even the school tax, I think, is something they've never been able to wrap their heads around. So I don't know if there's ways of making it more clear what stays here in the community versus what gets sent away. Something
definitely an option.
I think it would be good, to have our municipal people know what actually stays here and what gets sent to the province. And this whole policing thing is brand new. And like you said, it's going to increase quite handily in the next 3 years or 2 years.
Yeah, and I think that's the direction we should go to. This is something, as far as notice to the taxpayer, that this is a levy on them, because that's a way that we can articulate. I mean, they're looking at a tax bill and that's the amount, but it's not identified when we're saddled with a different thing that goes beyond of a service that we're delivering. So I think it's legitimate to say this is the amount that you're paying now for policing. So I'm going to go back a little bit to in a second part of my question or comment to the well tax, and you mentioned something about socking more away, and I guess while I agree with that philosophy, I actually think it's hurt us, because we are, we have operated as a county, probably if not the best, one of the best in the province, and it's hurt us, because I don't believe for a second that the province hasn't looked at those counties that this has affected and said, guess what? We're going to tag these guys, because if we had spent money like drunken sailors, pardon the expression, there wouldn't be money to cut. And so, while I agree with what you're saying, there is another part of this that says, you know what, if we're collecting it, maybe we should be spending it. And that's not normally something you'd hear out of me, but...
Yeah, when I reviewed the provincial budget, what's in the margins, right, is what's caught their attention. And they had a little point in there about the billions of dollars that municipalities in the province were sitting on. So that they're looking at it. And I think back to, what was it, mid-2000s, when they pushed the school boards to dip into their restricted surplus funds as well. And yeah, so that's always a risk. In terms of our long-term financial plan and kind of getting that vision, I think we've done a pretty decent job where we can look out 20 years. We've got some assumptions. We use the province's data set for bridge cost replacements, and based on their numbers, we're sitting on a backlog of over $4 million in bridges that from their list need to be replaced in 2020. Probably need to update that list, but when I look at that out 20 years, we're able to take care of the bridges, the pavement overlays that are coming, and we can just do that, right? What we're sitting on doesn't look to be excessive to me based on that infrastructure commitment that you've got out. And it's lumpy too, right? So we like to have stable things for operating, but your capital is, you'll have some years where there's hardly anything, and then we did so much paving in 2008, 9, 10, 11, like there's going to be years where your reserves drop precipitously and you might have to gasp, kind of a thing, but you just turn that cash into fixed assets that have a long life and provide services for our people. So I think it's not a simple thing to look at a county's financial statements and say, well, County of Newell's loaded. We've socked away reserves to replace what we've got. There isn't a lot of outrageous things in our long-term capital plan, right? We're talking pavement and replacing the water sewer systems that we've already got. And when you compare our reserves to what has accumulated in amortization, we haven't quite got the historic cost of the assets that we've used socked away to be saved. And I think Kevin will tell you, you're never going to pay historic cost for those assets when it comes time to replace. So I'll get off my soapbox.
Well, I mean, Matt is bang on. It's certainly, we're in a decent position today, probably one of the best positions in the province today in terms of our depreciated assets and what that number represents. But our reserves that we put away, we're not even on page 2 or 3 in terms of our taxes that we levy. So we're nowhere near in terms what I think we should have put away, because we see our accumulated surplus. It's dove, and we'll be dealing with it next. It's dove to the point that this year it's probably going to be in the red if we don't deal with it. And then if there's going to be more impacts with ICS and another, it's going to be really in the red. And then all of a sudden, we don't even have enough money to operate without tax increases, never mind put money away in future reserves for capital projects that council may have. So I'm comfortable where we are, but I'm sure not comfortable where we're headed with what I see.
To the first issue here was a request to the ADM and the RMA to include County of Newell directly in the stakeholder engagement. I understand the request to the ADM, and is this like CC to the RMA or a request for them to also involve us directly?
I mean, really whatever council feels appropriate for advocacy, whether it's a CC or another direct letter to the RMA. I imagine the Reeve will be the privileged party to communicate and reach out with them.
Right. So you would picture, I picture having a personal visit with some RMA people in regards to this, Matt, would be your goal, and with the province.
Yeah,
yeah.
With some detailed information back to us.
Yep. Okay. So we need a motion then to get started on that with letters, I'm assuming, for a start. So we would, I think, have two separate letters. Anybody wish to make that motion? Wayne moves to write letters to the ADM and to the RMA so that we have some direct involvement and in the stakeholder engagement. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks, Matt, and I'll let you sort of work on those, and I'll work with you on those. Yes.
So when I look at the stakeholder engagement group there from RMA and municipal, the municipal world, how familiar do you feel, and this is both for you, Matt and Kevin, for the 4 people that are identified there, as far as understanding like having a true good understanding of what shallow gas impacts we're realizing with this with the path the province is going down. And I guess the reason I'm prefacing that question is because, you know, if it's a case of with this motion that we just to engage this group so that they have a true understanding of the ramifications of what the province is doing, they're able to articulate that at that board level. So I only know Gerald on that list, so I'm just curious about the two CAOs and that other Karen from Leduc County.
Yeah, so I'll take a stab at it. I don't know, I know Gerald and I know Lawrence and Luke. Luke was a former assessor. So I think they understand assessments and the concept. Certainly, you know, being a former assessor, he'll have a more of an inside track to the math behind it. It's like having a Kevin Halstead on there. So, you know, I think that's good. But in terms of shallow gas, none of them are on this page that I just read. So, and that's probably on purpose, because if they're going to pick the top four here, it might have had a different stake in the game. So, you know, I'm not sure how they selected them. They certainly didn't poll us to see if we were, you know, interested in being on that board. But I do think the two there that I know are, you know, they're good, smart people. So I'm not worried about that.
Well, and that's forgive me, but that's my concern, is that if we're not in front of these people who are in front of the board, or in front of this review process, if they're not having a true understanding of the ramifications for the people that are going to be affected, how can they articulate that to the board? So, you know, that's maybe where we have to start, and, you know, and that's just part of it. I think the motion does indicate that, but, you know, that has to be a focus, I think, a focus group. And anytime we're in front of them, let's talk about it.
Good point. Do we pass the motion on that one? Yes. So how about the restricted surplus review and approval? Is that going to? Do you want to do that before lunch, folks? Get her done. Sure, let's go for it. Nobody's making a decision. He does.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Right?
No. You'll be back in for the CNRL business, correct? So.
Okay, so I'll try to be quick on this one. Assume that you've read through it. Each year we come back. I do a review of our restricted surplus funds. I pull municipal affairs list and compare us to everybody else out there, and we do rank in the top, 10 consistently. This year, our restricted surplus amount I'm proposing of what is left over at the end of the year, we sock some of that away into reserves. I've got it proposed there, transferring just over 3.2 million. 1.4 of that is for carry forwards. Of that 1.4 is for a gravel crush that we had planned for this year, 2019, and didn't get done. So they'll be rolling that forward into 2020. And then the balance, I'd suggest you top up your stabilization fund just to position us for what might be coming down the pipes at us. So that would bump your stabilization fund up to 5 million. We had a budget. In the budget, we included a net transfer to restricted surplus of 45,000. Actual net transfers during the year were just over 2.6, which will increase to just about 6 after the year-end allocation is made. The main drivers for this is our underspent capital budget. There were a number of things that didn't get purchased. Half-ton trucks, which are supposed to arrive in March, a couple of semi-tractors, gravel truck, fire rescue unit. All of these things will be carried forward to 2020. Talked about the gravel crush. Our investment advisors were here earlier in the year to celebrate the good year we had in the portfolio and to let us know that's probably not going to be typical performance. So we, earned another 1.6 million higher than what we had budgeted. And Torkson's been booting around the country, punching a lot of holes. So another 1.3 came in from there. So those are typically revenue sources outside of our control. So when people say, well, you're socking away more money, well, yeah, but it's not tax money that we're socking away here. I've included summaries for our future project fund. We have socked away money to pay off our debt for CNWP, take care of some of our reclamation costs, and we do have some carry forward balances from our integration project and the building project here. Regional Enhancement Fund would be the other kind of significant one. We've got specific motions allocating $850,000 to City of Brooks, Hort Main pipeline expansion, $101,000 for the daycare expansion. That'll leave them with $1.1 million that they can come and ask you to approve future projects funding on. And Bassano, they're going to be here this afternoon looking for that $44,000 in there. We're in line with our policy, and yeah, if there's any questions, I'm happy to field them or take a motion to approve those year-end transfers.
Or motion, Clarence?
The stabilization fund, how broad is it that we can, what can we use it for and what can't we use it for?
It's broad. It's anything.
Other questions or motion? Anne-Marie? You approve the proposed year-end transfer to restricted surplus? Hello? Is that what we're doing here? Yes? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And 2 is Pisano. All right, we'll just we'll recess for lunch, and CNRL will be here at 1 o'clock.